What does it mean to live life as more than a survivor?
Unpacking that question is what we're all about.
On this podcast, we speak about life, its ups and downs, and everything in between.
Join us as we connect with others and discover more through stories and conversations.
Come as you are.
Recovering,
Healing.
growing.
I'm John Westhaver.
And I'm Michelle Escamilla. And this is More Than a Survivor podcast.
Okay, so recording now?
Sweet. So we're live?
We are live.
Yay!
Yeah.
So welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Escamilla.
And my name is John Westhaver.
And this is the beginning of the More Than a Survivor podcast. Long time coming, and we're very excited to finally be here and excited to be able to talk to you today. So this has been, as we were just saying, a long time coming, right, John? This is something that we've been planning, I want to say for about a year when we started talking about this.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half, I think, almost. It's been a while. It's a lot of anticipation for this amazing podcast. It's so cool.
Well, let's tell the folks how we decided to start doing this. Do you remember?
Yeah, I totally do remember. Do you remember? So for me, what I remember the most is, make sure I'm looking at the camera here. What I remember is just when we first had this Zoom call, we were kind of connecting and kind of getting to know each other, sharing each other's stories, and just the conversation, the dialogue that we had. We were just natural flow of conversation. We seemed like we had similar experiences. We learned quite a bit about we learned quite a bit through our burn journey, and we have moved through it to these amazing lives, and just our natural flow of conversation just elicited something that is not common for a lot of people that have experienced the burn trauma. And I was like, man, if people were like a fly on the wall and was able to experience this conversation, it would be like so cool, because we're just naturally talking about different things that we experience. And so I was like, and as we were talking, I was like, man, we gotta do podcasts. Yeah.
So for people who maybe are wondering, what are they talking about? What did I just click? How did I get here? Let's give the folks a little bit of context. So I know John kind of mentioned being burn survivors, and that's kind of where this idea of creating this podcast came from. So I can share my story first, and then feel free, John, to share yours. So hey, everyone. Again, my name is Michelle Escamilla, and I'm a burn survivor. I don't know if maybe you're clicking on this, you've never seen a burn survivor, maybe you have, and you've been looking for community. This is a digital space that we've decided to open up to start this conversation. So when I was a child, I was in a car accident and the car was engulfed in flames. Thankfully, my whole family and everyone that was in the car survived, but we had scars. We were injured. My family and I were in the hospital for about 4 months recovering. And that was a pivotal point in my life, because everything that I knew, my whole world changed and became something, and opened my eyes to such a beautiful community that I now call family, this burn community, and has offered me the opportunity to meet you, John. And I lived my life as a survivor for a really long time. And then after a while, I realized that there were so many other titles or roles that I played in my life, or that I had in my life. And I was trying to figure out how they could intersect. I didn't have it be where one kind of lived in one place and one lived in another. They all intersected. And so as I became an adult, this is something that I really grappled with, and where you and I have often been talking about is like, what is life like when I call myself or consider myself more than a survivor? So that led me to, having this conversation with you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so incredible. Like, it's just I'm just I think it's amazing, your story. And I'll share mine too, and then I'll kind of go into some conversation. And as we go through this, we are recording this for the podcast, but also doing a video cast as well. So if you're on YouTube or wherever it is, you can watch the video as well. So myself, like you, like I was involved in a fatal a car crash. Sorry, mine was a fatal car crash. So I ended up losing. I was with three of my teen friends. It was about a month and a half before my high school graduation, and me and my three teen friends were out on a Friday night, on a road trip. We had a sober driver, a designated driver. He wasn't drinking, but he was speeding, and the driver ended up losing control of the car, and resulted in the driver and two of my friends in the back perishing, and I sustained life-threatening burns to 75% of my body. I was in the hospital for 2.5 months initially. Of that 2.5 months, I was in a medically induced coma, and spent probably 18 years of my life undergoing different surgeries to correct the damage that was caused by the burn trauma. So as those who have experienced a burn trauma to the body, there's a lot of surgeries that follow up with these burn traumas. So a lot of my life was consumed by burns, but it didn't stop me from living life. Like I still had to. I say when I talk to students and stuff, I say my family didn't treat me any differently. And, I still had to take the garbage out. I still had to participate in life. And my family was adamant about taking me out in the public, even though, I remember probably being about 3 or 4 months after the burn trauma or the car crash. I remember my family taking me out. It was hot summer days. I'm completely wrapped in bandages. I've got well, I look a mess, man. I'm like emotional wreck because I'm dealing with not only being a burn survivor, but I'm also dealing with, the loss of my friends. So I'm an emotional wreck, and I've got these bandages on. And my family took me out in public and made sure that I was like interacting with people and stuff like that there. And I didn't really get how important that was. But they treated me, they treated John. They didn't treat the burns. And because of that, um, I think it helped me move through the burn trauma into getting back into life and discovering that, you got to pick up the pieces, John. You got to move through life. Like no one's gonna like pave the golden path for you. Like it's you want stuff in life, you got to go get it. And I think that's where my story kind of started, is into getting into life and moving through this burn trauma, and not letting me hold it back and not defining myself as a burn survivor, but I still identify as a burn survivor. It's just because that label that we kind of put ourselves. Um, yeah, so it's yeah, I consider myself very lucky as well, because I, received so much support and help and medical treatment for my burns. Yeah.
There's this common thread that I hear about people who, I know that you and I are both talking about being burn survivors because this is part of our personal story. But I think about folks who have experienced any type of trauma. Oftentimes, you'll read in the newspaper because this is like such a grappling title to say, that the victim survived, or that there was a victim in this space or in this story or in this example. And I think for a long time, people work through that. That's a title, that's a role that initially is kind of labeled on people. And then, as you were kind of sharing, and we were both kind of alluding to, then we get into the space of what we consider and call being a survivor. Well, I'm not a victim anymore. I've survived it. I'm moving beyond it. And it's a beautiful place to be. Like you said, there's, community around you. There is a space for healing. And then, which is what we're, wanting to learn more about, and hopefully going to be talking to other people who have had different experiences of what is life like after I live in this place of just surviving, or being so comfortable with this title of survivor.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the conversations that is so powerful is that the labels that we define ourselves by, like that survivor label, and like you said, like it's um, we get comfortable. We get comfortable with the word survivor. Like we move from victim, burn victim, or replace it with anything. Like replace burn with anything. It could be cancer. It could be fatal car crash. It could be
Violence.
domestic violence, childhood abuse survivor. Like yeah, like could be anything. Replace it with anything. It could be rape, whatever it is. Like whatever you pretend survivor with, you know, a lot of times we go into the victim as the first stage. We're victim, and then when we heal and recover, we go through that stage. We're now a survivor, and then what we don't understand is, or we're not present to, I should say, is that whatever you pretense the survivor with, it could be cancer, it could be childhood abuse, it could be rape, or whatever it is, whatever you pretense that survivor with, whenever you identify and say, I am a blank survivor, you carry all of those thoughts, emotions, feelings with you. You never truly escape that space. You never really escape that trauma because you carry it forward with you. And what's so really cool about this podcast is we're in the discovery of what if you let go of that identity of survivor? Like, what's next for you? What's possible for you? Maybe there's healing for you. Maybe there's love. Maybe there's partnership. Maybe there's a new career. Like, what's possible when you let go and shed that identity of survivor? you know and if you're listening to me to this and you're saying, what, what if I'm robbing myself when if I let go of that identity? It's like, and if there's any charge there for you, if there's anything that comes up and you're defensive about your identity and that's who you are, oh man, you, John, you have no right telling me to lose that identity. If that comes up for you, that is absolutely perfect, because there's something there for you. There's something there for you that you're holding on to, that if you let go of that, something beautiful is going to happen in your life.
No, I mean, you and I talked about this before recording. Our intention is not to fix or change anyone. This is an opportunity to unpack and explore and come at it with curiosity, because ultimately that's what this space is for, is, hearing the experiences of others and considering what that could be like can be life-changing.
Yeah, and we're not professionals. We're two human beings who's experienced some pretty hard stuff in life. I like to say, and I think you, it's fair to say that you as well, that I am a post-traumatic expert. What do I call it? I've grown, or sorry, a post-traumatic growth expert, and I think you're quite the same, because we've learned quite a bit through our journey, and we've grown, and we're learned so much so that we're able to give back to our community and to other people. And I think that gives us that space to say that we are post-traumatic growth experts. We are in this space of always looking for, what can I learn and discover about myself and about trauma that will help me and other and people in my life, and people that I can connect with.
Definitely. I mean, I think about society right now, and we consider this term of, as you were saying, identity. Identity is huge. I mean, think about the different communities, as we call them, that exist, and they're beautiful. I think what tends to happen sometimes, though, is that we lock ourselves into, I am just this one identity, or I mostly connected to this identity. But really, this space is about, what would life be like if those intersected, or if they evolve over time? What if I truly identify with, being a burn survivor in this season of my life, and then as I continue to evolve as a person, I'm also a professional. I'm also a spouse or a partner. I'm also, et cetera, et cetera. You fill in the blank. I don't think one person ever truly can be fully stagnant. I think at some point we will either, change or see other people changing around us. And yeah, this is an invitation to just explore the possibilities of growth and, innovation and all good things.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. And we're not saying you have to lose the identity, but if there's something there for you, this is a great opportunity. Follow along with us. Come along this journey. This is a new journey that we're experiencing. We're not podcast people. We're just playing in this space of podcast world and really creating a conversation for that lives on beyond this moment in time. It will continue to be in the digital space for however long it's there for, so that people can hear us and create something for themselves and discover something for themselves. And really what's beautiful about this is the healing journey of this and discovery and all that fun stuff.
John, do you remember the moment when you felt in your life like you were evolving from this place of just being a survivor?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think it was, well, I never really identified as a burn survivor. In the beginning stages I resisted it quite a bit, but I'd say I'm a burn survivor. But because I had it in my head, that burn survivors were broken people, and I wasn't a broken person. Oh God, no, I was not a broken person, and so I resisted it for a long time. I did, and I remember one of my friends one time. He was looking at me, and he was saying, "Hey, John, I don't see your scars anymore." And I said, well, yeah, there's a reason for that. I said it's because I don't make my scars an issue. Like, I've dealt my scars. I have accepted the way I look. This is how I look, and it was a conversation that was started through my father. Like, I had to be at peace with my scars. I had to learn to accept them. And when I told my friend that because I've learned to accept my scars, they're not an issue for me. When I talk to you, I'm looking at you in your eyes. I'm talking to you. There's that connection. And when I'm not focused on how I look, I can be with you and you can be with me. And the scars are not an issue. And I think that was one of those important times where it was like, I'm more than just a survivor.
Yeah. I think about also what you were sharing, how your family just really normalized the fact that, yes, you went through something really difficult and still we, are going to walk through life as if preparing you to be a professional, preparing you to be an adult, preparing you to be a partner, preparing you to be a parent at some point in your life. And, oh yeah, that's right. You also did have this injury and there's so much life to still live and explore and, figure out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. They had no clue what they were doing in the moment. They just, said, "Hey, let's treat John, not this thing called burn trauma. Like, let's help John and get him back to where he needs to be, sort of thing, in his recovery." I asked you the same question that you just asked me. When was the first time that you um how did you say it?
Essentially, what was the moment when you realized that there was more to being a survivor? Essentially.
Yeah, but yeah. So when was the time that you experienced more than being just a survivor?
Yeah, actually, I had a really similar experience to you. So after we came home from the hospital, after I came home with a full body suit, essentially. There were pressure garments from head to toe. My face also had a burn injury. And so I came home with a plastic face mask. They cut my hair. And for folks who can relate, the struggle, how that feels. You look a little different. And even though, even being like that, my parents were like, okay, we're going to make a point to go out. We're going to live our lives. We're going to go out to eat. We're going to go to the mall. We're going to go to the movies. And I think maybe at first we may have been like, oh, I don't know if I want to because I look really different and I might feel a little uncomfortable. But I think in normalizing that process, when people would stare, because hello, we've come to realize that for me, people are curious and sometimes they don't have any other way of telling you that they're curious besides staring. And so, once I came to accept that, and just realize, as my family would always remind me, that there are going to be people who will always be curious or may not like you or may not be comfortable with what you look like. But that's okay because we love you and we are here for you and you have a community of people surrounding you. So having all of that really normalized it for me. And same to what you're saying, my friends would say to me, oh, I don't see the scars that you're talking about. And that would just blow my mind because I'm like, what do you mean? They're on my face. They're on my body. Like I am,
right here.
Exactly. Hello. Have you not seen me? But I guess for me, that has kind of that's been something, an identity that I'm always like, oh yeah. And I'm a survivor. Because there are so many other things that kind of are fused into my life. I can think about actually a time in my career when I started working, that kind of having a conversation with my manager, but we had become friends at this point. So they were, I was comfortable with this and they were comfortable sharing it as well. Them saying that they're like, I don't see you as a survivor. I see you as this really smart person or outgoing person and all of these other things that outshine the fact that, oh yeah, there are scars. So I don't know. I think the more that I talk to people and the more that I hear folks really stuck in this place of identifying as a victim or identifying so strongly just as a survivor, but perhaps not exploring those other things, has made me think about it in retrospect and be like, well, there are other possibilities. There are other identities that can live together. Like it's not that you have to choose one or the other. But yeah, I don't know. Talking to more people, I realize that there are folks who, for example, I can think about people who have a hidden burn, who have hidden scars, who struggle a lot more than, someone who has it, it's so visible, with exposing it to the world and with living with this identity of a survivor. So, having those types of conversations have really opened my eyes and for me make this space so important, not just for survivors, but, I think about partners and caretakers. I think about people in professional spaces and even educational spaces, friends, advocates, doctors, etc. Like there's so many people, parents who can benefit from just hearing different perspectives and maybe being willing to hear different stories.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's even just smiling at people you meet through the day. You get to be that bright light, the hope for other people. A lot of times, through conversation with other people, it's like, sometimes I'm not present to the impact that it has on other people. And you're probably the same way. Like you're not present day to day through the extraordinary life that you live. You bright, smiley, beautiful smile on your face, and you're going through your day, da 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 da, and then you're just doing your thing, and then people come to you like really like you are like hope that things will get better. Like here you are, who's gone through something obviously horrific, and you dealt with some pretty dark stuff, and you've got a smile on your face, and here I am over here dealing with what I'm dealing with. Like what can I let go of over here to get your smile? So we kind of give people hope in that space and courage to move forward. And yeah, and I just love it. And a lot of times I'm not present to it, because I'm like, I'm just, in my head, I'm just John. I'm just doing my thing. I'm, living my life, doing my thing. And I forget how powerful that is for some people, because some people, they haven't had the experiences, or they haven't had the opportunities to work through the stuff that we've worked through, or they may not have had the people surrounding them that we have had. So if you are a burn survivor, trauma survivor, or you're dealing with something, and you feel that you don't have people around you to support you, you know, I invite you to reach out, because there will be people in your life that you may have had at an arm's distance, um, for whatever reason, and they're just waiting in the wings to support you. And I think when you reach out to those people, you know, you'll find that they're there wanting to support you. Or maybe you've had experiences with people and they've let you down, or they've hurt you for some reason. There are a lot of people out there that do want to support other people. So if you're struggling, reach out and get the support you need. You can also message us as well. Like, on the podcast, we'll leave our emails and stuff. But I just want you to know that, like, there is support out there if you're having a hard time and dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. Like, we are, as the world right now has gone through this pandemic, we are in a place of healing. And when you're healing, it doesn't always feel good. It's pretty tough sometimes. It hurts sometimes, but that's good. It means you're still alive.
And I also want to add that maybe folks listening to us might say, wow, they make it sound so easy, so easy breezy to get to where they are. Seriously, I think so. Sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, John, but people will ask me, but how? How did you get there? What is that process like? And I think, like you said, because I'm just living my life. I forget that there was, factors that played into this. So I really want to emphasize on this idea of it is hard work. There was people around us. We were both just talking about our families or community members that helped us to get to this place of confidence and self-assurance and self-love. There were also experiences, where we had to make a choice. Do we either listen to our anxieties and not participate in certain things? For me, it was wearing t-shirts or dresses that would expose more of my scars, or make the decision of embracing that fear, stepping forward and saying, I'm going to live my life and I'm not going to let this stop me. So there are active things that need to happen. It doesn't just happen of the snap of a finger and saying, okay, I'm free. I don't feel these things. I'm more than a survivor. That's not how that works. But we're inviting folks to walk alongside us and have these conversations, to hear from ourselves and from other people as to what's worked for them. Because maybe what's worked for me doesn't work for someone else. Maybe there are things that are helpful, but not everything will work the exact same way. It's not necessarily a formula. We're just offering experiences, our own personal experiences, and hopefully that will resonate with people listening to this podcast.
Yeah, and Michelle, I know myself, but have you had experiences in your recovery process that set you back? Like, I remember for me, there was a few surgeries that didn't work. And I had multiple surgeries. And I remember on my right eye, we had done like 3 or 4 different surgeries, and it was easy to kind of give up and feel victimized, and, this isn't going to work, and, my life's over, and, and it's easy to fall victim to that. But, I want people to understand that, for me, and I imagine you, that we have setbacks, and sometimes they're pretty devastating. But with resilience, we kind of work through them. Like, I remember when I had my eye done, and it was like 3 or 4 times, like 2 or 3 surgeries on my eye, and it just wasn't working. It just, nothing they could do could fix it. And that was the skin around my eye. Nothing I could do would open that up so I could actually see out of it properly. And it really impacted my sight and my visibility and things like that there, and which impacts everything. And it was really devastating, you know. But with the support of my family and especially my father, it was like, the doctors are doing their best to repair the damage, that was caused, and they're doing their best, and you're doing your best, but sometimes things just don't work out, and it was devastating at the time, and I've had a few of those surgeries, and were quite devastating. How about you? And what did you use to get through those?
Yeah. So I really appreciate you bringing this up, because I think again, I'll speak for myself. I think that for me, it's really easy to say, I'm here and I made it and everything's great. When in reality, no, just kidding.
No, seriously, though.
But the truth is that, yes, I have experienced that too. And to be very transparent with you and those who are listening, I think I am my own worst enemy sometimes. There are things in my life as a person who, has had amputations and who looks different that I might say to myself, why even try? I've said that in my mind and in my heart to myself, why even try?
Yeah.
And I sit with that. And then, again, like I was mentioning before, I have to make the active decision to say, will I listen to that voice, or will I take a very small step of courage and say, but what if that voice is wrong? What if I can do it? Well, if I can do it, then all these amazing things might happen. But if I don't do it, I could live with that wondering, regret, concern, fear, anxiety. And yeah, it's a hard place to be, but it's always an active choice. And, I want to say like 99% of the times I take that courageous step, and that other percent, sometimes I got to wait for the next season of my life to try again and then make that active choice to say yes. But, I wonder if people struggle with that too, is, other people might be supporting you, your community, your family, your spouse, your whoever, but you yourself, I myself had to make that active decision to say yes. And so I think it can be really limiting and paralyzing to live in that kind of a space.
Yeah, and it can be. And what's funny about that, and I say, like, when I say funny, I mean peculiar. Like, what's funny about that is, like, when we're in that space of grappling with whatever we're dealing with in the moment, it's something within us that we say, okay, enough's enough. I got to move on. There's greater things out there. When you're on the other side of that and you're offering support to other survivors, or maybe your medical staff, and you're dealing with burn patients, or trauma patients, it's like, what can I say to this person that's going to get them through this hurdle? And sometimes we have to let people fester with this, and discover for themselves that status quo is not okay. Like, the way things are going in this moment aren't okay, and I want more for my life. I deserve more. And I think that's one of the things that I would always say to myself is, like, I deserve more. I want more, and that's why I moved, like, from a small town in New Brunswick all the way to Victoria, BC, 22 years ago. Like, I moved to the city where I only know one person, my brother. And I created this life here, not devoid of my life in New Brunswick, but, like, I created life from, like, nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, but I created what I have here, because I wanted more, And I think, like yourself, I'm assuming, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming you were the same way. You wanted more. You saw that there was more, and that's what
Exactly.
may have said, or in your head, you're thinking to yourself, I want more. There's something that I can do about it. And I think that's what we're kind of sharing with people is, when you come from this space of, I want more, I deserve more, that's that responsibility part of it coming in and saying, I can do something over here, to better my life, to better my situation, to do the hard work that needs to be done to get to where I want to go.
Definitely. I mean, you can even look at it as like, I have so much to grow still. And I think for me, I think about it in this idea of like, there's an ocean to swim in. Not that I like to swim in the ocean necessarily, but the metaphor that there is still so much to explore. There's still so much to live. And you're right. So to give folks who are listening and watching context, John, you moved from the East Coast of Canada to the West Coast. And I kind of did the same, a little differently, but I'm originally from Ontario, and I'm currently living in Los Angeles. And with that same idea of every step that I've taken, I'm always thinking, okay, but what's next? And what else is there? As an adventure, as a story, as a chapter in my life, knowing that there are many chapters, like a book, still to go, like the songs that are still unwritten, that I'm willing to walk through and learn about. So yeah, I agree with you. I think about something that you said a little while ago, of this idea of how we're just living our lives. I'm not actively thinking of like, how do I become more than a survivor? How do I live my life as more than a survivor? And I was going to share this example that happened to me this past year, where I was at the grocery store. It was, it's the middle of August, burning hot. So I'm wearing my biker shorts and a t-shirt from a camp that I used to participate in that was for burn survivors. And, I'm getting my groceries, getting my fruit, getting my veggies, the dinner options, all that kind of stuff. And then I noticed that there was this person who kind of was looking at me, which, like I said before, I've come to realize and understand that sometimes that's what curiosity is. There's no other way of expressing it than just by staring. So when people do that, my automatic response now is to just smile at them and then continue on my day. So I saw this person, they were staring at me very much like shopping cart, and then giving me the side eye kind of thing, but not mean, but just curious. I smiled and went on to the next aisle. And for some reason, I bumped into this person again in the next aisle. So I smiled again and went on my way. Luck would have it, for the next, I promise you, 2 to 3 aisles, we kept bumping into each other. So by the second aisle, I was getting kind of annoyed. Because you can only be positive and cheery, at least for me, for so long until something starts to kind of like, okay, like what is happening here? So I was getting kind of bothered, but I, said, I'm not going to let this, burden my day. And I get to paying. I get into the line to check out. And guess who is right behind me at the checkout aisle? You guessed it. It's this person who's been staring at me. And I was like, okay, I have 2 options. I can either be really rude, which I don't want to be, or I can just say hi and start a conversation, because maybe this is their first encounter with someone who looks like me. Maybe this will be the only encounter they might have of someone who looks like me. So what am I going to choose to do in this situation? So I turned around and I said, hi, how are you? That's it. Yeah, hi, how are you? And they said, oh, good. And then they immediately started to share with me how someone in their life was a burn survivor and was really struggling. And perhaps in their life, we're identifying with this role of being a victim. And she watched me in my biker shorts and in my short tee, just living my life. And exactly what you said is what she said to me. She said, I look at you and I see hope, because I know that at some point in this person's life, and the person that I love in their life, there is a possibility that they are willing to see their lives as more than a survivor. So, it's a beautiful opportunity. That's how I choose to look at it.
Yeah, it totally is. And that's, it's you put it so beautifully, and what's so awesome is as this journey goes through our podcast, we're going to have more conversations like this. So if you've enjoyed this conversation and you want more of this juicy conversation, stay tuned, because we're going to be producing more of these episodes as we go, and we're going to be touching different topics. We're going to be talking about lots of different things that that we're passionate about. We're going to have guests on. We're going to interview different survivors of different things. It's going to be a fun ride, and we're going to do this every 2 weeks. We'll have a new episode every 2 weeks, and I think we're going to have it as a podcast and also a video cast. I think we'll probably have it on YouTube as well. But yeah, if you like this conversation, man, stick with us. We're gonna have more. We're gonna have more of these juicy conversations. And as you can see, our energy together, we just gel. We just it just flows, and it's so comforting. I think it's really good. I think we need to have more of that. I go back to when we were talking the first time, And in my head, what I saw in my head was like, here John is and Michelle, the next Kelly and Ryan. You know, everyone knows who Kelly and Ryan is, right? So here's the next new Kelly and Ryan. Yeah. So anything you want to say before we close off the show?
No, you know what? I'm excited. Thank you all for hanging out with us today. And if there are topics or questions like John had mentioned, feel free to reach out. This is what this space is. It's not just for us to sit here and share. It's to really be open to hearing other stories and hearing your questions as well. So we're excited.
Awesome. And if you have a topic that you want us to cover as well down the road, like, shoot us a message, and let us know, and we'll put all the information at the end. But thank you for listening to us and watching us today, and we look forward to being this journey with you guys.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us today on More Than a Survivor podcast. Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe, like, and leave a rating. Your feedback not only helps us reach more people, but it also makes our show even better. Got a question or a thought on today's topic? Drop us a comment. We read every single one. And if you think a friend would appreciate this episode, don't hesitate to share it. We'll see you next time. Thanks and goodbye.